Okay, we can get started.
Apologies, everyone. I think we're prepared to start now. I guess I tap this, or I tap this. Good afternoon. The Thursday, August 5th, 2021 meeting of the Committee on Academic Affairs and Student Services is now called to order. Will the Chief Advisor please call the roll? Present.
Trustee Tallman? Trustee Williams? Trustee Fazal Hogue?
Present.
Chair Massey?
Present.
Okay. Call Vice Chair Swanson.
Vice Chair is here
Vice Chair
too.
Swanson?
I just couldn't hear my name called. Yes,
Vice Chair Swanson?
present.
Thank you. Do we have a quorum, Chief Advisor?
Yes, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Welcome and thank you everyone for joining us today. I will note for the record, as you heard, that Chair Massey, Vice Chair Swanson are participating by phone today. This is allowable under our board bylaws, Article 1.5.3, Sections A through C, provided there is a quorum in the room. As the Chief Advisor has just noted, we do have a quorum today. Today we'll have a panel discussion led by Chancellor Salgado and his team. In addition to the presentation, we will also review the board reports that will be considered during the April regular board meeting, which will take place later this afternoon at 2 p.m. Chancellor Salgado, please start your panel discussion.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Secretary Davis. This week marks the first week where all City College staff are back on campus in person, full-time. I want to thank everyone for your patience and hard work as we pivoted to remote work remote work in response to the pandemic, and now as we make the transition back. We are today better positioned to meet student needs than ever before. Students can take advantage of our on-campus and online classes and student service options. During today's committee meeting, we will hear from two panels about the changes we made in response to the pandemic and our effort to return stronger than ever. Please notice the use of the words we and our. This was a collective effort. It took the work of every single individual in this institution, whether they're a staff member, a student, whether they're a faculty member, an engineer, a janitor, any part of the institution. It took us all. Throughout the pandemic, it will continue to take us all, working as we have for the betterment of our students. So I want to thank everyone for their efforts. And the panel is reflective of, a little bit of the diversity of the many people that have been supported. But there are, as we have thousands of employees, thousands of students that have helped make to this happen. The first panel will address what we're doing to support the health, safety, and well-being of the City College's community. You will hear from David Anthony, the Associate Vice Chancellor of Administrative Services, Akbar Khan, the Auxiliary Services Director here at Harold Washington College, Michael Domke, the Chief Engineer at Wright College. Thank you, Michael. Erica Williams, the Human Resource Business Partner at Daly College, and Carol Dunning, our Chief Talent Officer. After that, we will hear from our academic and student affairs team regarding the opportunities and additional supports created for students during this challenging time. But for now, I'm going to turn it over to ABC Anthony for our first panel.
Thank you, Chancellor. Can you have the next slide, please? Thank you, Chancellor, trustees. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about the variety of layers we're using here at City Colleges to keep our students, faculty, and staff. Can you put to the next slide, please? Thank you. We want to start out with a quick overview of current City of Chicago COVID-19 guidelines. And as you likely know, the City of Chicago moved into phase 5 on June 11th. And the city moved into that phase based on a variety of public health metrics and the progress made in vaccinations for residents of the city. And in phase 5, most mandatory COVID-19 regulations have been lifted, including capacity limits, social distancing requirements, and that also included the lifting of mask mandates in most settings for fully vaccinated individuals. However, as I'm sure you all know, over the last week, additional mask guidance was released by the CDC. And on Friday, the City of Chicago encouraged individuals to wear masks indoors in public settings, and I'll stress the word public settings there, regardless of their vaccination status. And throughout all phases of the pandemic, City Colleges has been following the guidelines of the CDC, working with the CDPH to interpret those guidelines best for our settings. And the CDPH has really been a great partner for us in that effort, and they have assigned a staff member to be a direct liaison to City Colleges as one of the sister agencies, a person that can help us interpret these guidelines that we can call at any time with any questions on how to implement these things best throughout our facilities. If we can go to the next slide, please. Want to spend a few moments here now talking about a couple of the layers of safety and how these phase 5 guidelines are being implemented at City Colleges. And I'll start off with the face coverings. We require now at City Colleges that all individuals, without regard to their vaccination status, wear a face covering in most situations, especially those non-private or public settings. When they enter and exit in all common areas like a hallway or an elevator or a conference room, when they cannot maintain social distancing. And per the CDC recommendations, all unvaccinated individuals should wear a mask at all times. And at City Colleges, we support any individual's decision to wear a mask at any time, even above and beyond those settings. And we will continue to adapt our guidelines as called for with the advice and guidance of the CDPH. And I'll turn it over now to Akbar, who'll talk a little bit about cleaning protocols.
Thank you. Good afternoon. As David mentioned, there have been changes in the guidelines and focus as the scientists have learned more about the COVID-19 pandemic over time. At the beginning of the pandemic, for example, we cleaned, disinfected classrooms and conference rooms and areas in the building in between every use. We purchased electrostatic sprayers, sanitizing supplies to allow us to disinfect more quickly and efficiently. Now CDPH has revised its guidance, which calls for daily cleaning with the same types of disinfectant products that we typically use prior to COVID-19. So we have returned to closer to normal cleaning routines. We do clean rooms, common spaces, other areas that are in use a minimum of once per day, or as needed more. This includes addressing, removing trash, cleaning, and disinfecting surfaces. We still pay extra attention to high traffic areas throughout the day as well. Hand cleaning and face covering are still very important parts of overall prevention strategy. So we continue to place hand sanitizers or wipes at the entrance to the building and in common areas like our elevator lobbies, lounges, and are available to anyone that is working, visiting, or taking a class in our facilities. Security front desk also has face masks to give out to anyone that walks into the building. And I'll pass it on back to David.
Okay. Thanks. Can we go to the next slide, please? Another layer of protection we want to talk about here is ventilation. So I'm going to turn it over to Mike Domke, who's the chief engineer at Wright College.
We have a short video that we prepared for you to look at regarding the equipment and strategies that we're using for allowing good air circulation during these COVID times. But before we start this video, I'd like to just hit a few points on things. We have preventative maintenance processes that we follow that allow us to provide better airflow and everything else. This includes everything from cleaning ducts to cleaning vents, changing our air filters 2 to 3 times a year. Most of our building automation systems actually will tell us when the opportune time is to allow this to happen, so that we can take most advantage of the capacity of the filter, but still allow the most cleaning efficiency that we can. Our equipment maintenance all includes everything from greasing motors to adjusting dampers to allowing adjusting our variable airflow volume boxes to allow the most airflow that we can allow into the buildings that our systems are capable of. This is all to allow the maximum air that we can change over and bring into the space to make it as safe as possible. Also, one other thing I'd like to just say is all the engineers for the city colleges are all licensed by the city of Chicago. They are all members of Local 399, Operating Engineers Union. The union provides tremendous education process and ability to allow us to ability to allow us to stay up with the latest trends and knowledge on how to operate a building safely. With that, if we can start the video, please.
We can't wait to welcome you back in person at City Colleges of Chicago. So we've been checking every pump, tank, damper, and every point on the building automation system which controls our heating and air conditioning at each college. We've been investing in new equipment, filters, and controls to ensure fresh air for our students, faculty, and staff. We start preparing our college buildings at least an hour before campus opens and run them in accordance with the guidance of the American Society of Heating, Refrigerating, and Air Conditioning Engineers to ensure 2 air exchanges per hour, with another air exchange after campus is closed. All outside air and return air is filtered before being supplied to classrooms. We have increased outside airflow and enhanced our filtration to keep impurities out of the air at a higher efficiency down to the micron level, from the rooftops to the basements. Our institutional commitment to best practices ensures a clean and healthy space for you today and tomorrow. On behalf of our engineers, custodial staff, and administrative services team, welcome back to City Colleges of Chicago.
With it, just to reiterate a couple of things that were in the video. One of the big things that we are doing is we've increased our amount of outside air that we're bringing into the spaces. City code says that we have to do it once per hour. We're doing it a minimum of 2 times an hour, that we're changing all the air over with fresh air from outside. Most of the time, that's the minimum. We're doing it 3, 4, 5 times, as much as we're allowed, or much as we're capable of, with depending on outside air temperatures, humidity levels, and stuff like that, to still maintain comfort inside the building, but bring as much fresh air as we can in. We do start ventilating well before the buildings are opening, and we continue after they close, just to get that fresh air into the building before they get shut down at night. Losing track here. The air, when we do supply it, all of it is the return air that we take out of this space. We exhaust that to the outside. We bring in fresh air from outside, and that is all filtered prior to it coming into the building. We're using the best technology that we can, that we're capable of doing, to filter the air when it's coming back into the building. We've done all the chief engineers at all the schools, we got together with admin services to try to step up and do a better filtration system, we did a big bulk purchase of better filters for everybody, and that's what we're going to be going with going forward coming out of this. It doesn't, and all the filters are really designed by the manufacturers as to what we can use, what the capacity is of it, because we still have to maintain amount of heat and cooling capabilities coming into the building through it. This effort is across the city, the state, the country, the same thing that everybody is doing. We use a lot of our resources to talk to other places, and all have been in communication, and it's been really a good experience for all of us so that we can move forward with a better thing for the city colleges. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. I'll move on now talking about vaccination, which really at this point is the most important thing that anybody can do to protect themselves. And the progress that's been made vaccinating residents of Chicago is really the main driver, what moved us into phase 5 and allowed the city to lift many of the restrictions that we had earlier in the pandemic. And as you may remember, CCC has a long-standing MOU with the city of Chicago where our facilities can be used as mass vaccination sites in the event of an emergency. And starting in late December of 2020, the Chicago Department of Public Health set up 7 mass vaccination sites at our colleges: Malcolm X, Daly, AVI, Kennedy King, Truman, Olive Harvey, and Wright. So City Colleges was able to contribute in some small way to the city's recovery from the pandemic by having those sites in our buildings. And we're all, I think, as part of the facilities team, proud of being able to support that. And through the great partnership with CDPH, we were also able to provide exclusive codes to our employees at the very beginning of Phase 1C. Phase 1C was when higher education employees became eligible for the vaccine. And at that time, you may recall, it was very difficult to get an appointment for a vaccine. And in that first week of Phase 1C, we were able to provide our employees with a code to use at Wright College to get vaccinated, to make it easy for them if they wanted to get vaccinated as soon as possible. And within another week or two, we were able to provide the same code for use at Chicago State. So able to give our employees that chance. They didn't have to fight for a vaccine. They could do it at one of our facilities or at Chicago State without any restrictions. We also sponsored vaccination events at our colleges with a private provider, open to any students, faculty, and staff. We shared information with our students about Illinois Department of Health college vaccination days at Cook County sites and provide our students with registration codes for those events to try to make it as easy as possible for them to get vaccinated. And overall, we want to provide as many opportunities as we can and encourage people to get vaccinated as soon as they're able to do so. And we will have a provider back at the start of fall term at all 7 colleges to offer free vaccinations for anyone in the community, students, faculty, and staff who want to do so. And if they want to do it now, I'll pitch here the city's vaccine finder and ZocDoc, where you can find all the private pharmacies, supermarkets, where you could get a vaccine today. Should move on to the next slide. We also have a COVID testing program, and we are requiring COVID testing for any individuals who are unvaccinated. Earlier in the pandemic, the recommendation was that everybody, in workplace testing programs, everybody should take part. And this is another example of how we've adapted with the guidelines as the guidelines have changed. As the CDC revised its recommendations, we also allowed vaccinated people to be exempt from the process. We are testing currently at all 7 main campuses, plus Dawson, with plans to expand testing to every facility by the fall term. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Erica Williams. She'll talk about how employees get exempted from the program.
Thanks, David. I'm going to talk about the process in which employees can be exempt from testing programs by voluntarily contacting their campus HR and show their actually fully completed vaccination cards in person to HR at their site. This means that they're 2 weeks past their second dose for Pfizer or Moderna, or 2 weeks past their first dose if Johnson & Johnson. Human Resources does not keep copies of these cards, they only view them. In order to be compliant and respect our employees' privacy, HR tracks the vaccination, was reviewed in a separate location. No one but HR has access to this information. I also want to mention that if employees are symptomatic, they should get tested with their healthcare provider and not with our testing program. I will now turn it back to David to talk about the student process.
Thanks, Erica. There is a corollary process for students to show their proof of vaccination, and that's done through a dedicated email account at each college with a limited access to, to who has access to those email accounts. But it is an electronic process. We can move on to the next slide. Unfortunately, we do have times when someone tests positive and has been on campus. That could be through our testing program, or they could have tested with a private provider and informed HR or their deans of students that they tested positive. In either instance, we follow the same protocol, which includes contacting that individual, typically by district office security in collaboration with the college security director for the relevant college. The goal in that contact tracing interview is to ascertain when the person was on campus and the details of who they may have been in close contact with at a time when the person was potentially infectious. And close contact is a very specific definition as provided by the CDC, which is within 6 feet of an individual for a cumulative amount of time of 15 minutes or more in any 24-hour period. And our investigators will go through in detail when the person was on campus and try to identify if there were any close contacts. If there were, we also notify that person that they have been in close contact with someone and that someone remains anonymous. And we direct them to quarantine for 14 days from the date of contact, unless the person has been fully vaccinated and is still asymptomatic. We send all information on every case to the Department of Public Health for their review to make sure that every action that we've taken is correct and complete and there's nothing else that needs to be done. And then we communicate return guidelines to the individual who is sick as well as to the close contacts, and share that information with HR or the deans of students so that they can provide support to those individuals, whether it's with leave or academic issues. And there is a general notification to the entire college community as well. And data on our COVID cases is also updated weekly and published on the City College's website. So I'll wrap up here and turn it back to Erica, and she can talk about the leave.
Thank you, David. I'm going to run through an overview of the process employees go through if they test positive for COVID-19. Employees should first contact their supervisor and inform them that they won't be reporting to work that day. They do not need to disclose the reason why, only that they'll be taking a sick day. They will then contact leave management of Human Resources, who will guide them through the process related to working from home, being totally off work, potentially utilizing COVID sick pay. Leave management will continue to work with the employee throughout and follow the guidelines that we are given through the Chicago Department of Public Health. Leave management will also notify security to initiate the contact tracing protocols. Please advance the page and I'll turn it over to Carol. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. As David and his team expressed, City Colleges continues to do what we can to prevent the spread of COVID. And as such, if an employee is experiencing symptoms of COVID, they actually follow the same process that we follow if they actually have COVID. They contact their supervisor, let them know they'll be off, contact HR leave management, and work through the process with them. At all times, the information is kept confidential so that it isn't shared with anybody else but HR. And as Erica said, if they have the symptoms, they should contact their healthcare provider and do the COVID testing outside of the City College's process. Go ahead and switch. The last topic is just a reminder of the different resources that we have available for them. The first is our leave management department. They're available through multiple means to help the employee through the entire process. In some cases, that gives them access to the COVID sick policy that is currently in effect and will be in effect until 12/31/2021. We also have an employee assistance program that gives employees many options of ways to help support them during the many different impacts of COVID. And of course, we have the City College's webpage that has a section on COVID that is updated by David's team on a regular basis whenever anything changes. We're happy to take any questions you might have at this time.
Does anyone have questions? Yes. Trustee Williams?
Thank you for that presentation. I found it to be quite comprehensive and appreciate the information. Over the last couple of trustee board meetings, during the public comment, we have had faculty express concern with the timing of certain maintenance items and requests. It's a little bit of a surprise to me, I'm sure to my colleagues as well, as we assume that there is some kind of process at the college level where such issues are addressed. And so what I'd like to know is whether or not, what's your process for receiving those requests for maintenance and repair, the timing at which they're responded to, and basically those two items.
Sorry. At Wright College, we have a work order system that everybody can electronically submit work orders to us. We respond to them within usually that day or the next day, and typically have them all resolved within 2 to 3 days, depending on materials that are on hand or if we have to acquire anything. We strive to actually complete things on time and quickly, especially when people are requesting or have an issue with something that is out of our normal routine of maintenance.
Is this a system that is system-wide among the colleges, or is this a specific
Not
to?
really.
Right.
I believe every college has something similar, but does something a little bit different at every campus.
Sure, I can add to that too. Yes, so every college kind of has their own different system, and